Good morning. I'm Nicole Fitzhugh, and I'm a member of your Board of Trustees. We are so glad you're with us this morning at First Unitarian Church of Oakland. We strive to be an intentionally multi-generational, multiracial, multicultural, inclusive, and anti-oppressive religious community. You are all welcome here. If you're new to First Unitarian, we invite you to fill out an orange visitor card. These can be found on the greeters table in the foyer, and after service, they'll be in the welcome table in Venti Hall, which is the large room right over here where we have coffee hour after service, fun chat and conversation. If you did fill out a card, please drop it off at the welcome table there when you're done, or stop by the welcome table to say hi and ask questions. We also have a link to an online visitor card on our website. It's great to see you all here this morning. I have a few announcements for the community. Today there will be an exploring membership session 15 minutes after service led by Clark Sanford. Clark will be in a minute. It'll be in the Star King room, which is down that hallway, the first door on your left. On Sunday, October 21st, we'll gather for Church Cleanup Day. Come from 9 to 1 with some elbow grease for spiffing up the place. You bring the cleaning, we'll bring the pizza. Saturday, October 21st. Oh, did I say Sunday? Sorry. Saturday, October 21st. The 21st part is definitely right. Definitely from 9 to 1, definitely pizza. And I have some information on our stewardship drive. Our annual pledge drive continues. As of this morning, I am happy to announce we have pledges of $90,554 toward our goal of $350,000 for our 2024 church operations. Your stewardship team is asking you to make your pledge early. After you go home, please go onto the church's website and make your pledge today or this week. The link is in the Chalice Chatter. Even if you have a sustaining pledge, please fill out the pledge form online this year. When you do so, please strongly consider increasing your pledge. Your pledges will make the programs needed for our congregation to continue to be a leading liberal religious voice in Oakland. Thank you on behalf of your small but mighty stewardship team, Debbie Kaplan, Dennis Rowcliffe, and Dave Rudy. October 29th is the new date for this month's potluck. This is the 5th Sunday of the month. There will also be some fun Halloween activities that day. Contact Ingrid Mittermeier. Ingrid, she's waving right there. If you're interested in bringing candy, helping. My last announcement is that there will be a restorative approaches to congregational conflict workshop with our Hope for Us team, the Zoom edition, on Wednesday, November 1st from 6 to 8 p.m. You can register online for the Zoom link. The event will be recorded, so if you miss it this time, you will be able to watch it going forward, but I strongly encourage anyone who missed the in-person workshop to consider this Zoom version. I attended and I found it deeply, deeply enriching and really rewarding. The link is in our Chalice Chatter, but there are also flyers like this with a QR code that will lead you to the registration form. They encourage you to register by October 27th, and this will also be hopefully added to the website soon. Thank you all for being here this morning. And I have our land acknowledgement. We acknowledge the land and the peoples who belong to this land, the Muwekma and Lijan Ohlone peoples. Our church, our institutions, our homes are occupying their lands, ancestral and current. We acknowledge that the lands were stolen from the Ohlone peoples, who have an ancestral relationship with this land, the plants, the animals, the water, for millennia, continuous to the present day. Ohlone people are still here. We recognize that the Ohlone ancestors in spirit and of the land are present. In solidarity with all Indigenous people and their right to self-determination and justice, we commit to working toward accountability of the theft, dispossession, and resulting trauma Native peoples continue to face. We commit to being active partners toward the healing of the intergenerational trauma which persists to this day. Amen, and so may we live.
It's time to light our chalice. We light this chalice to honor those brave souls who spoke their truth, who questioned authority, who defied orthodoxy. Their courage speaks to us through the chalice and encourages us all to think strongly, to love fully in our shared quest for truth, beauty, and meaning.
The events in the Middle East this past 8 days have been beyond horrific and stretch my ability to believe in our first principle, the inherent worth and dignity of every person. And as events continue to unfold, our sixth principle, the goal of world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all, seems but a pipe dream. Words of hope fail me this morning. In lighting our peace candle, perhaps we can rekindle some small semblance of hope in ourselves and the world by lifting our voices together reverently and without accompaniment to the simple blessing of the metta, wishing ourselves, one another, and everyone, everywhere, safety, good health, joy, and freedom. Please take one slow, easy breath with me. May I be safe. May I be well. May I know joy. May I be free. May you be safe. May you be well. May you know joy. May you be free. May all be safe. May all be well. May all know joy. May all be free. Thank you.
We light our Black Lives Matter candle with the words of Juan Gabriel Marquez, Colombian author. History has proved 1,000 times its extraordinary capacity to hide uncomfortable versions or to change the language with which things are told, so that terrible and inhumane things end up turning into the most normal or desirable or even laudable thing in the world. Here at First Unitarian, we light our Black Lives Matter candle to counter a history that is full of omissions, invalidations, and misrepresentations, a racist history, and to affirmatively and loudly proclaim that Black lives are valuable, beautiful, and important. And together we say, Black Lives Matter. I have always known that at last I would take this road, but yesterday I did not know that it would be today. No matter the road we are on, we come here each week to seek both the familiarity of friendly faces and rituals, and to build our courage and our capacity for change. In one voice we say, "Come, let us worship together." And now we will sing number 16, "'Tis a Gift to Be Simple."
A story for all ages in 5 parts. I walk down the street. There's a deep hole in the sidewalk. I fall in. I am lost. I am helpless. It isn't my fault. It takes forever to find a way out. I walk down the same street. There's a deep hole in the sidewalk. I pretend I don't see it. I fall in again. I can't believe I'm in the same place. But it isn't my fault. It still takes me a long time to get out. I walk down the same street. There's a deep hole in the sidewalk. I see it is there. I still fall in. It's a habit. My eyes are open. I know where I am. It is my fault. I get out immediately. I walk down the same street. There is a deep hole in the sidewalk. I walk around it. I walk down a different street. Can we sing the children out with "Go Now in Peace"? Let's sing it anyway. Go now in peace. Go now in peace. May the word of love. we're going to take a little bit of time to greet one another. But we're all good doobies and are going to return to our seats immediately upon hearing the bell because we have a very special treat. Scarth Locke is going to sing for us. And greet one another.
Marcy, hello. I was thinking about you the other day.
Ron, turn your camera on so she can see you.
Hello, Marcy. I was thinking about you the other day. You're muted, Marcy.
Hello, all.
Hi, Judith.
Hello.
Hi, Judith. Hi, Ron.
Hi, Evelyn.
Marcy.
Hi, Susan. Hi, Evelyn.
Hi. Hi, Debbie. Long time no see.
Hi, Susan Kay in her bathrobe.
Hi, Rebecca and Helen and Suzanne and Nancy.
Marcy, at the bottom of the screen, maybe you can see a button to unmute or mute. Oh, dear. Anyway, it's great to see you, Marcy,
Yes.
and everybody else.
See you. Yes, everybody. Good morning.
And hello to Debbie's companion.
Hello, everybody.
Hello, Helen.
Hello. Who is that with the Helen label?
Bill.
Oh,
Helen had this to answer the phone.
I know.
Hey, Nancy Henderson.
Good to be with you on our squares.
Our Hollywood squares.
Hey, Marcia.
I'm really enjoying this pianist this morning. I can hardly wait to see what Scarth has in store for us.
Yes, me too. Lovely.
All right, dear ones. See you later.
See you later.
See
Okay.
you later.
Bye, Marcy.
Thank you, everyone.
Hi-ho! Kermit the Frog here.
Apparently not everybody in this place knows about this song. I didn't write this song. Kermit the Frog wrote this song. Why, that's the one. Why are there so many songs about rainbows? What's on the other side? Rainbows are visions, only illusions. Rainbows have nothing to hide. So we've been told, and some choose to believe it. I know they're wrong, wait and see. Someday we'll find it, the connection, the lovers, the dreamers, and me. Who said that every wish would be heard and answered, and wished on the morning star? Somebody thought of that, someone believed it. Look what it's done so far. What's so amazing that keeps us stargazing? What do we think we might see? Someday we'll find it, the rainbow connection, the lovers, the dreamers, and me. All of us under its spell. We know that it's probably magic. And have you been half asleep? Excuse me. Have you been half asleep? And have you heard voices? I've heard them calling my name. Is this the sweet sound that calls the young sailors? The voice might be one and the same. I've heard it too many times to ignore it. It's something that I'm supposed to be. Someday we'll find it, the rainbow sun. That's it, here we go, sun. And someday we'll find it, the rainbow connection, the lovers, the dreamers, and me. Da, 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 da. Who knows the rest of it? La la da 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 da. Doo. Thank you.
Thank you, Scarth and Kermit. This is a reading of a poem by our previous minister, Reverend Ninan Soto, who is also a poet. I confess that I have skipped to the back of the book. I really wanted to know what or who or how the story went. I told myself that if I still wanted to read the rest, then it must be good. But that only works for paperback books. Life is a little less linear, and still wanting to know how the story will go, I am willing to dance with the suspense. What will become of a failure? What can be built with an honest mistake? Keep paying attention. Keep dreaming and supposing that more is possible. We don't yet know the ending. And if you are tired, then it must be time to rest. Staying curious is like a muscle. We flex, reaching for what we don't yet know, and relax, leaving space for what is yet to come.
People come to church for the first time for myriad reasons. Spiritual enlightenment, the music, religious education for their families, and as often as not, to find community, to make connections of hearts and mind. Years ago in Worship Associates training, Reverend Kathy Huff reminded us that invariably, each week, someone in this room has a heart that is breaking. In a moment, a bell will ring, and we are encouraged to lift up into the collective consciousness of this community the names of the people and circumstances that are on our hearts. It is a sacred ritual and embracing meditation. For each name that has been spoken and each that remains in the silent sanctuaries of our hearts, together we say, we hold them in our care. Thank you.
The future we imagine. Let us call upon the Spirit that moves among us, below us, above us, and through us. Let us call upon those who have gone before us, who have shown us the way, who have been with us as guides and examples. Let us call upon ourselves to imagine, to hope, to dream, and to do, that the future may build on the past, but not be confined by the past, that the future we imagine will be a new thing. My family camped along the Navarro River in Mendocino County when I was a kid. I loved being in those woods near that river. I wandered among the huge redwoods with the ospreys above, the banana slugs below, and otters swimming nearby. The ancient trees arched overhead, the tidal river rose and fell. The smell of the bay trees and the peppermint underfoot helped us all slow down and breathe more deeply. But to get there required a long drive in an old station wagon packed full of equipment, boxes, kids, and a dog, with no air conditioning, and I sat in the way back with the boxes and the dog. As we drove out of the Bay Area up past Novato and then Cloverdale, the temperature got steadily higher. And by the time we turned onto the windy two-way highway that headed back out to the coast, I was hot. I had stripped off my sweatshirt, my shoes and socks. There were no windows to open, So I sat back there thinking about how good it was going to feel to throw myself into the river as soon as we got there. The dog threatened to get carsick. Everybody's nerves were a little strained. But the thought of taking a huge leap into the water, the big splash, kept me going. And then, well, you know there's an and then, because this is a story. It's got a setup, a challenge, and you expect there's more. It draws you forward. We humans are storytellers. We don't live by instinct. Our power is narrative. It's how we manage a super complex world full of infinite details. We trim it all down and narrow the focus until we get a coherent story that we can manage. Around the same time that I was going on those camping trips, I learned a poem that starts like this. In 1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue. I never memorized the rest of it, but it was part of a narrative made up by humans, like all of our histories, legends, and family lore. Yes, there are actual facts these stories are built around, but those facts are rarely the point. The point is to define who is us and who is them, what is important or what's right or what's ours, and it all depends on who is writing it and why. And then we use those narratives to give us goals and hope, direction and purpose. We don't always even realize they're there, but without our stories, we haven't a clue of what to do next or where we are going. Guided by them, we move smoothly toward that rainbow connection that Scarth was singing about, right? Well, not so much. More often, like Columbus, we don't end up where we intended because there's a lot that is unknown and out of our control in this world. So even in the best of circumstances, we rarely get the future right. So back to my trip to the Navarro River. You'll remember it was hot in the way back of that station wagon, and I was fantasizing about a big leap into the river. As we got closer to the coast, the road kept winding, by then going into dark redwood forests and then back into the hot sun and then the forest. The car finally slows. We turn off the highway onto a dirt road. My father rolls down his window to let in a bit of fresh air, but back in the way back where the dog and I were, still hot. I was counting the minutes until my big splash. Then a stop to open a gate. The wide open door fills the car with cool air, so I wrap my sweatshirt around myself and hunker down between the boxes to keep the heat in, the better to really enjoy my leap into the river. Then a few more turns, the car stops, and we are there. The doors open, the dog leaps out and runs in wild circles of excitement. My parents start organizing and unpacking. The cool air, scented with bay, surrounds me. I put my shoes and socks back on, zip up my sweatshirt, and walk down to the riverbank to stick my fingertips into the cool water just to say hello. So I never, ever leapt into the river when we got there. I'd been there many times before. I knew it would be too cold, but pretty much every time I fantasized about leaping in on arrival. Why would I do that? Because the function of my story was not accuracy. It was to get me through a hard time, to give me hope. To get through that heat, I needed a big splash out ahead. We live with an expectation of how our life will go. We might lay it out something like this. Today, I will dig a hole. Tomorrow, I will plant an apple seed in that hole. 10 years from now, I will eat an apple from that tree. We live with a future out in front of us because it makes it possible to choose the next step. That potential apple tells me what I need to do today. My husband David and I had a future in mind, and then he got long COVID, which means he sleeps a lot and he's chronically exhausted. The future we saw out ahead of us is no longer an option. Travel? No way. Working on a project together? Nope. A walk down Lehman Tour Beach, one of our cherished activities? Not a chance. We don't know if or when his illness will resolve or if it will recur. We had always assumed that life would continue more or less as it had, gently slowing toward the end. But suddenly, the things that give us joy and peace are no longer possible. Our trajectory has failed. We have fallen into a hole. And so we learn to find joy in a short, slow walk in the neighborhood, in having tea together every evening. Stories evolve. My fantasy of leaping into the river helped me get through, and when it no longer served, I discarded it. And the dreams that David and I had can surely be adjusted to our new reality. But sometimes one person's path to the rainbow can cut right across someone else's life. When my European ancestors arrived in America, they were seeking a new road. They came from a culture of ownership that says a person can own, say, a piece of land. And if nobody owns some land, then it's up for the taking. This unexamined part of their identity made it reasonable for these immigrants, my ancestors and maybe some of yours, to imagine that they might build a better life for themselves if they left the old country where everything was already owned by somebody else and sailed to the new. And their narrative smacked right up against the narrative of the people who were already here. One of my father's ancestors, who came from England, was described in a genealogy as an Indian fighter. I don't know more about his life than that. But we know that driven by inherited, unexamined narratives of the legitimacy of ownership and the supremacy of white human beings, the conflicts between Europeans like my ancestors and the native people were catastrophic for the natives. The Europeans just took it all as a matter of right, driven by their narrative, land, artifacts, language, and even human remains were taken. Today, we believe we can make different choices than those colonists and settlers did, and that we have left those assumptions behind. But have we? Well, some of those human remains, they're still sitting in drawers at California State University campuses today. In 1990, the Native American Graves and Repatriation Act was passed to return artifacts and human remains to the Native people they belonged to. It was an attempt to rewrite the narrative of colonialism. And yet, 1/3 of a century later, 33 years later, only 6% of those objects have been returned. At Sonoma State, that number is less than 1%. There are all kinds of reasons why those bones are still in the possession of the state. It's really complicated. The science is important. We didn't steal them, somebody else did. But these excuses don't get at why those bones are still in those drawers. The narratives of ownership and racism that came on ships across the Atlantic are hiding out in there with those bones and will continue to justify holding on to the remains of someone's great-great-grandparents until we recognize that the story needs to change. The facts are not the point, it's the underlying narrative. There's a story that's told in my family about cooking a roast. The story goes that someone, no one will confess to being this person, always cut the roast in half before putting it in the oven. When asked why, she said, "I don't know, that's how my mother always did it." When Grandma was asked why she cut the roast, she said, "I don't know, that's how my mother always did it." And when Great-Grandma was asked why she cut the roast, she said, "Well, my pan was so small that I had to cut the roast to make it fit." The original practical reason had drifted off into irrelevance. Nobody remembered why, but we were still cutting the roast. Until we interrogate them, our narratives are unlikely to change. We'll just keep cutting the roast, expecting to go down the same road. David and I have camped along the Walala River in Sonoma County every year since we met. It's very much like the Navarro River. Same ecosystem, same trees and plants. It's something we look forward to every year. Being there brings us that feeling of expansiveness and peace that I found as a child in the woods. Every year I make reservations for the next year as soon as we get home. But this year, it became obvious that David just couldn't do it. I really needed to cancel that reservation. I kept putting it off, thinking maybe he'll get better enough that we could make it work. Finally, in a moment of rationality, I went to the website, found my reservation, found the cancel button, and stared at it. There was such loss and deep sadness in letting that campsite go. A tangible admission of what this illness had taken from our lives. Tears were running down my cheeks. But I took a deep breath and clicked cancel. And then a new screen popped up. It said, "Are you sure you want to cancel?" No! Of course not. Stop torturing me, I wanted to say. No, I don't want my husband to be sick. No, I don't want democracy threatened. No, I don't want a worldwide pandemic and the planet on the brink of destruction and populism and fascism and racism rising everywhere. No. Okay, I may have been folding a few other things into that response about a campsite. But we've all been through so much these last few years. None of us could have predicted the instability we have experienced, the assault on our norms, our safety, and our values, the feeling of being unable to proceed. To paraphrase Monty Python, nobody expects an insurrection led by a narcissist who refuses to accept that he lost. But who among us likes to accept loss? The failure of the future that was the extension of our stories, our histories, our identity. It hurts, and it's scary. Hitting the cancel button felt like saying that the story David and I were writing had failed. I think we here at First Unitarian have felt some of this in the past year with the resignation of Pastor Ninan. A future we all hoped would be bright was over. But the fact that our future didn't happen as we hoped for is not a failure in us or our dreams. So much is out of our control. The cycle of imagining, failing, re-examination, and reimagination is life. That's the way forward. There is no other way. As Unitarian Universalists, we believe that we are a work in progress, and that seeking to understand more and more deeply is our path and our calling. We come together each week to reconsider the stories we hold to and to learn the stories of others. And this continuity of connection helps us to be willing to go beyond what we know, to give ourselves the the space to find a new way, to be brave. We sit here under the arching redwood beams with St. John the Revelator behind us. St. John, who was exiled for challenging the narrative of those in power. He sits up there with his pen in hand still, because revelation, imagining a better future, is never done. And with the sower in front of us, always planting new seeds, because the work of building a better future is never done. Some seeds flourish into trees full of fruit, and some don't. And so we learn to re-examine what we have believed. We open ourselves to transformation, and this cycle of hope and failures and transformation is the great gift of Unitarian Universalism, our superpower of seeking always more truth and more love. May it be so.
Morning. My first question is why? Why do I always have to follow Sarah? My name is Sharon Dolan. I'm a longtime church member. I have taken a bit of a break over the last few years, but I'm back and I am, thank you, and I am recommitted to working with those of you who have stuck it out through thick and very, very thin over the last few years to help rebuild this church into the radically welcoming, anti-oppressive place that we all know it can be. I remember my first time in this church very clearly. I was sitting back there. I was sitting near Joe Christofalo, who was so welcoming and encouraging and talked a lot about the importance of this community in his life. Didn't hurt that he had a great singing voice, too. The Reverend Marcus Liefert was in the pulpit. He was 12 years old, for those of you doing that math. I was completely blown away by his message of acceptance and welcome, his 12-year-old geekiness, and his presence up there in the pulpit. We all knew he was going somewhere, probably directly to Star King. And then we started singing the hymns, and that was the first time I'd ever heard We'll Build a Land or Spirit of Life. And when we started singing together, the tears started flowing. I felt like I was home, which is a theme I've heard many times since from people who have visited the church. Since then, I've been in the choir, the folk orchestra, Band Without Borders, Joyful Noise. I've been on the board twice. I've been on the stewardship team at least once. I've put on countless events. Trust me, I tried to count them, but I don't even know, scores of events, concerts, auctions, retreats. I was a founding member of the Journey Toward Wholeness transformation team, which was leading our anti-racism work. I raised a child here. I got so much support from so many members of this congregation during the teen years of said child when we were both struggling quite a bit. I met my longtime running partner here. I got married here. I met 100% of my best friends here, Sarah Watts included. I've also experienced many conflicts, small and large, here at this church. A thing that's been known to happen when organizations involve human beings. I've been frustrated when our anti-racism efforts don't go as intended. I saw the demise of the folk orchestra. I stayed through a split when a longtime choir director left and several members of the congregation left along with her. I have seen ministers and congregants come and go, sometimes because of their own demons and issues, sometimes because of our flawed support. Usually a bit of both. These past 3 years, I've drifted further from the narrative I had imagined for myself in this church than I ever have. I became disengaged. I had some dalliances with other religious communities. Don't tell anyone. I had some personal challenges that made it hard to get here. I stopped pledging, I stopped singing, and then I stopped coming. And I stopped feeling connected to all of you. But then I remembered the love and care that I've received from so many of you and other folks in this community over my time here. I remember Chris Sutherland delivering her macaroni and cheese when I broke my wrist 15 years ago. I mean, this was some memorable mac and cheese, I have to say. I remember Francie Leifert's loving patience with my then 8-year-old son, who only wanted to sit under the table and read when she was trying to lead RE. I remember Brian Jeffries making me laugh in a meeting. It seemed like, in many meetings actually, it seemed like the more tense the meeting, the more Brian was trying to make me laugh, and it worked. Brian is hilarious. I remember Sarah Watts jumping in to save the choir because she knew how important it was, unpaid, when she was brand new here. And since then, being a constant, hardworking, and loving presence in many of the darkest times of the church. And I remembered all of you. So I came home. Each Sunday, I see more and more people. I see many new faces. I see some of you who I've known for decades now. Some of us are a little worse for the wear, but we're still here. We're building something new together. It won't be familiar. It won't be what we planned, and it certainly won't be perfect. We wouldn't want that. It's an exciting time in the life of the church. The board has some ambitious plans. I know many of you are working on projects to help rebuild the church. I wouldn't be here if I didn't believe in the big strides that we can make together in building beloved community. But it is going to take my presence and all of yours, and probably some folks who aren't here today, in order to make this happen. We need each other. In a moment, the ushers will pass the collection baskets for your donations. Many of our members fulfill their pledges by mailing a check or by text or through electronic banking. You might be able to find this information on the screen in a moment. If not, most of it is available on the church website. As the baskets pass this morning, I invite you to consider the importance of this church and its congregation in your lives, and to give as generously as you possibly can. If this is your first time with us, though, please let the baskets pass you by. Your presence here today and in our future is your gift to our congregation. Will the ushers please come forward to receive the offering?
And now for our closing hymn, There Is More Love Somewhere. Now we extinguish the candles and turn to our lives outside these walls. As you walk out today, you might come to a hole in the sidewalk. You might even fall into it, or maybe you will manage to walk around it. But what if we all got together to fill that hole with some nice, rich soil and planted some seeds in it? What might we grow? Let's go out and grow more love. Thank you.